So I want to discuss the squat variation, exercises, movements, whatever, that will help you bring your squat up, but not only bring your squat up, you can just live a better life when, you know, your hips and your posterior chain are just healthier and stronger. And I'm going to start with the box squat. As always, I've written them down because I forget. Let's see. A box squat can also be done with dumbbells or a kettlebell. You can hold it up to your chest. It can be done with a safety bar or like a regular bar. You got the camber bars, you know, you got a ton of, you got Texas bar, you know, that's bent, whatever. It doesn't matter. You can do it in your weekly routine. And I've done it hundreds of times, literally hundreds. I've been box squatting since I want to say 12 or 13, something like that. And it was always a part of my regiment. And it did bring up my row squat 100%. It's an exercise that splits the squat into two movements: the way down and the way up, eccentric, concentric phase. It's just a brilliant exercise. There's so many benefits to it, and I'm gonna keep going because I could probably talk about the box squat for like 45 minutes. Let's see. Number 2, a box squat with chains. Well, what do you know? We're back to the box squats, but it's very different with the chains. Now, what the chains do is they progressively add weight as you're standing up. When you sit down, it's obviously lighter because they're on the floor, and this is something I want to tell you guys if you've never tried it. The chains should always touch the floor just by a link or two, just a couple of links, not the whole chain, obviously, because then you're cheating. You don't want to post like a 600, 650 squat and then you got 100 pounds of chains and, you know, 60 pounds are on the floor, because then, you know, it's fake. It's not, you know, you're faking it. Anyway, the chains are fantastic. They're also very good for your stabilizers because they will slightly swing back and forth, but very slightly. And that's why they need to be on the ground at all times. They need to be touching the ground so they don't start, you know, swinging too much. Number 3, box squat with bands. And this, along with the chains, was my weekly rotation in my about 3-year cycle, I guess, when I was training the conjugate method. I'm not gonna say training West Side because, you know, I've never been to West Side, but it was based on West Side templates. I learned, and I, you know, along the way I created my own, you know, programming. That's how I learned how to program. Thank you, Louis Simmons, by the way. What the bands will do is they will nail you to the ground. The bands are brutal. They're not like the chains. The chains may seem a little difficult at first, maybe a couple of weeks, but the bands, given that you're using the right tension, and not too much, you should stick to about 30 to 35% of your overall weight, of total weight. Now, don't be fucking stupid. Don't add like 50% just, you know, so you can compress your spine even further. They are brutal, but they will make you faster and more explosive, and I guess that means stronger. Think about it. Number 4, the future method squat. This is the squat where you attach the bands on the top of the power cage, and you squat down to depth or below. Obviously, as a powerlifter, that's what, you know, I always needed to do. How we did it back in Iceland is we would use the luggage scales. The luggage scales. I forgot the word. So we would hook a link to the band so the little nail of the scale doesn't rip it, and it did happen once. It was ugly. So you put the link, you click it onto the band, and you pull down to where you have squatted, so you can count the holes in the power cage or whatever. You can put safety bars, and then you count and you see how much weight it takes off. That also needs to be at about 30 to 35% of total weight. You don't want to add like 3 or 4 fucking bands and then be like, I'm squatting 800. You're not really squatting 800, you know, you're squatting 550. So you need to be smart about that too. Always stick to 30-35% of accommodating resistance. This is what Louis has taught us, and it really fucking works. The future method squat. Number 5, the concentric or the bottom-up squat. This is, I can't say brutal, but it is a hard exercise. You need to be centered properly. Like we used to do with a safety bar, mostly because the pins, you know, I hold the bar pretty wide, like almost all the way out. So the safety pins in the park cage were exactly where I would put my hands, and I don't want to go up and down when I know that my hand's gonna get crushed or I'm gonna break a finger. I don't want to risk that. So we would use the safety bar, which forces you forward. The safety bar is fantastic, but it is difficult to handle. You got to learn how to use it properly. So I would lift up the handles a little bit and have the cushion, the pillow, that round pillow in the back,
beautiful,
just right past my traps, much like a roll bar, but not as low. I can put the roll bar pretty fucking low, not Malanichev low, but pretty low. And I would go back, and as soon as you need to move the bar slightly backwards, so you're standing on your heels. You're not standing on your toes, so the weight is easier, and at the same time, you're training the proper muscles. You want to train your quads, but you don't want to blow your knees out at the same time, right? Fantastic exercise, very difficult exercise, and most likely you will not squat the same weight as you're squatting row, your full squat, which is, you know, use the bounce, the recoil, I guess, and compared to the bottom-up squat. Number 6, the Xerxer Squat. That is an exercise it took me a while to do properly because, you know, I got the bicep issues and the forearm issues in my right arm. It's always painful. I got to a point where it doesn't matter anymore. I just do it. I will use my elbow sleeves. I just double fold it. I just wear it properly, and then I fold it again. So it's like 2-ply on my elbow, double ply, and then underneath I'm gonna put my wrist straps, so it's a little less painful because I got the tendonitis on and off all the time now, and that's fantastic. The Xerxer Squat is one of the first exercises that I'm gonna mention that adds the weight to the front of your body, which means more quads. What I recommend, being somebody who's had pelvic issues and spinal issues, don't use a super wide stance for like a front squat or a Xerxer squat or the goblet squats, which will be mentioned very, very soon. Just close your stance a little bit, stick to shoulder width, maybe a little wider, but don't go super, super wide, you know, like a sumo squat. I used to squat sumo, by the way, really wide, and raw too. You know, that was painful, but very effective. Number 7, the front squat. These are all cousins in my mind. You know, the body's right up here instead of in your arms. So, I mean, it's really not a big difference. What the front squat forces me to do is stand even more upright, stand even prouder. Otherwise, your thoracic spine is fucked. Like, you don't want to injure yourself. You don't want to cause any trouble, any problems to your spine. And in my case, I definitely don't want to cause any more problems to my spine. The front squat is a great exercise. I kind of suck at it. In the gym, as you probably saw in the video, it's probably played by now. In the gym, because I have a Smith machine, somebody needs to unhook and hook the weights, and it's brutal. I cannot really go that heavy. But it's a great exercise. It focuses more on your quads again. But you know, you're always working your hammies and your glutes and your abs. It's a great exercise for the abs because you have to stay flexed. Number 8, the raw post squat. That's another exercise that's quite different from the raw squat because you use the bounce. You go up and down. You use that elasticity if you want in the muscle. The post squat is something that I also do. I rotate now. It's like a monthly thing. I just rotate it because I do the same thing all the time. I rotate. I use what I have. Back in Iceland, I had like a lot of toys to play with and to mix it up. Here I don't, but I still try to be inventive and be smart at the same time because a lot of injuries. So the post squat I believe it has made me stronger since 2019 because I didn't really implement it in the past as much. I've done it like the year of 2015 and then 16 a little bit, but then we just stuck to a lot of box squats, chains, bands, and the reverse squat, the bottom up squat, and all that stuff. Raw post squats, don't forget. Number 9, the goblet squat. It can also be done with the dumbbells or kettlebells. Now, the goblet squat is another exercise that I prescribe to everybody. Like, I got people training at home, women, people out of shape. I'm not just saying that women are out of shape, but You know, there's like somebody who wants to lose a lot of weight, or it's always there. Like, can you squat your body weight? No. Oh, you can't. So we start with box squats, like on a chair. Then we move on to goblet squats. You know, hold a kettlebell, or you can hold a dumbbell. It's fantastic. I do it a lot. It's fucking brutal. I mean, if you do it properly and heavy enough, it's a crazy exercise. And I also recommend in this one, don't stand super wide, because personally, to me, it's very painful to my hips, very painful to my pelvis. So I don't recommend it. Just stick to shoulder width, or maybe a little wider, but there's no reason to exaggerate that stance. I mean, you can always squat, right? You can always mix it up, and you can widen your stance anytime you want. And number 10, the landmine squat, which is admittedly an exercise I haven't really figured out 100%. I am trying though. I've done it probably maybe 10 sessions in my life. I'm fairly new to it, but it is a brutal exercise, and I can feel it's so exaggerated as I'm forced to lean forward so I can have, you know, you're at a, I guess, a decline, because an incline would be backwards, I'm guessing, right? So you're at a forward angle, and then you're forced to still do the full motion. And that, I mean, my quads, man, they're burning every time I do this. They're on fire with during this exercise. So, you know, and it also forces you to keep a very, very rigid posture, and be smart. Just find the angle, the proper angle. I cannot do it standing super upright, you know, like going down like a goblet squat or a row squat. I just can't. It doesn't work for me that way. I have to lean forward a little bit, but still a great exercise. I'm happy that this video didn't turn out to be super long. Yesterday I did the first take, and it usually just takes me the first take. I usually know what the fuck I want to talk about. It was like 15-16 minutes, and I forgot a couple of exercises. And when I went home to you know, to find the footage to add to the video, I was like, fuck, I forgot a couple of those. So I'm doing it again. It's something that I meant to do. I love the squats. Just a tiny little outro. I love the squat. It's my favorite exercise for sure. The deadlift is a very close second. And the bench press, of course, I love pressing, but you know, nothing compares to weight on my back. It's like I'm on emergency mode. I'm on like, fuck, you know, I better stand up with it and rack it. Otherwise, you know, that's what I tell myself in order to pipe myself up and squat it. Like, I create scenarios in my mind. Like, you need to squat, you need to stand up with it. It's just, I mean, the bar on my back to me is ecstasy, just pure ecstasy. But like I said, I'm not talking down on the deadlift or the bench. I love presses, I love pulling, I really love deadlifts. But to me, that the squat is like, you know, it's just that little extra that I'm obsessed with squats. I think I say the word squat literally 10-15 times a day, even to myself. So I hope you enjoyed the video. Subscribe to the channel. We're up to 260 subscribers, I think. And we surpassed 20,000 views recently. I mean, last month. So it's growing. Slowly it's growing, and the gyms are opening very soon, and I'll be able to put out, you know, there's a few changes happening. And all this time, which I haven't discussed, I was staying at a friend's house, at a garage, not his house. So I'm incredibly thankful to him. He didn't want to be mentioned, or he didn't want any footage to be shot in his house. I respected that. But he did keep in shape, and then some. Fucking camera died. So, thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time.